Greetings lovely folks, welcome to another video. It's Kat and this is the first instalment of the process of my first Schleich resculpt. I'll be turning this Schleich stallion into a Mule Zebra Hybrid. This is not a hybrid likely to ever exist in reality, but there are no limits to the realms of the imagination. These are some of the tools I use in the video. My Dremel, I use this with a drill bit and also a sanding drum. I also wear eye protection when working with power tools as well as a mask to avoid getting anything in my eyes and inhaling dust from my project. My plier and cutter set also come in extremely handy. This is my hand saw. I usually use a hacksaw, but it's gone walkabout, so I'm having to make do with this one, which I usually use for cutting wooden dowels. Wire for support struts, repositioning my model and providing strength to legs. And acetone. Acetone tends to slightly melt Schleich plastic, so I use this to clean up plastic dust left behind after using a Dremel on my models. This is my concept sketch for this project. I chose the model I'm using because it was already somewhat close to the position of my sketch and just needed a few modifications. Mules and zebras are both known for having quite the attitude, and I wanted to convey that in this model, even though he's got quite a casual walking pose. I began by popping him in my tabletop vise and removing his tail, and then began the work of removing his neck. He's getting a new head from a donor model that better matches his breed than the pony face this model had. It took me quite a while to get through the plastic with this craft saw. It's not really made for cutting up anything tougher than lolly sticks, and it's quite blunt. Needless to say, I will be tracking down my hacksaw before I start any more projects like this. This was definitely the most time-consuming part of this project. I could also have used a cutting wheel on my Dremel to remove the neck, but from past experience, I don't feel I have as much control with the cutting wheel as I do with a handsaw, and the cutting wheel can't always reach certain angles on some models. With the neck and replacement head detached, I move on to repositioning his legs. I wanted to extend his raised foreleg forward into a moving stride, and to achieve this I place a cut in the back of the knee without going all the way through, so I could pull it forward into position. Likewise, I wanted to lengthen his hind supporting leg very slightly. It may not be a huge change, but it does make all the difference in his posture. I cut through his right foreleg at the knee and inserted a piece of wood to lengthen the whole leg. With his hind leg lengthened, he was tilted over to one side, and his front leg was shorter than it should have been to begin with. I also cut through the top of the leg at the shoulder to lean the leg further back, and inserted a small chock at the back of the hoof to tilt it back forward. I used wooden pieces to hold all the joints in position while I worked, so I could make sure he was anatomically correct and standing properly. Next, I used my Dremel fitted with a sanding drum to sand down the remaining main sculpting and rough edges on the body. I want a completely smooth surface to sculpt on later, so I made sure to sand down all sculpted details, cut marks, and discrepancies around the neck base. Here I wanted to level off the base of the neck. The original model had his head raised, with my concept having his head lowered, so the angle of the neck needed to be lower. Here I'm doing sanding work on the replacement head with the Dremel. I put the head into my vise because it was hard to hold onto with gloves, and I didn't fancy having my fingers so close to the Dremel in case of accidents. Now onto the cleanup. I'm using acetone to clean the frayed plastic and sanding marks on the head and body. Acetone melts the plastic slightly and leaves it smooth and clean. It also dries my hands out, but wearing plastic gloves is out of the question, since acetone simply eats my gloves too. This model was a former failed custom of mine that I never finished, so while I had the acetone out, I got rid of most of his paint as well. If you're enjoying this video, do consider leaving a like, as it really helps my channel. If you'd like to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. You can also follow me on Instagram, link is in my channel description. I marked the insides of the separated leg to make sure I would drill into the same place on both pieces, and then I began cutting the wire to pin the leg and create the new neck. I used an awl to create indents in the pieces I needed to drill to make it easier for the drill bit to get a purchase on the plastic. I also drilled a hole through the piece of wood I used to lengthen the leg at the knee to allow the wire to pass through. I used the awl to make holes in the neck and head as well to make it easier to drill into later. I used my Dremel with a fine drill bit to drill the holes for the wires in the body. I then cut down all the wooden pieces holding the joints in place in preparation for gluing. I inserted the wire rod into the right foreleg to test the fit and make sure the length was accurate. Here you can see all the wooden chocks in place prior to gluing. I used a 2-part epoxy resin glue to solidify all the joints. I wore gloves, a mask and my safety goggles for this, since the fumes are quite strong and this stuff will bond to literally everything including skin. I didn't get any footage of actually gluing the pieces in, since I had to work quickly and quite close to my face to ensure the fit. This resin glue dries within 2 minutes, so my work time was minimal. Here is the finished result after gluing. The extended foreleg has a string around it to keep the joint pressed around the glue and wooden insert while the glue cures. The neck and head are also in place. This is it for this video, but stay tuned for part 2 where I'll begin sculpting the new neck and joints and create his ears. Thank you for spending some time here today, I appreciate it. Happy painting and I'll see you next week. Bye!